Hey guys, I'm Keith Finch,
And I'm Jack.
and we have shoved Caleb in a dumpster for not doing
Yeah.
his homework, and we will get to why after the sponsor banner. So, Jack, what was Caleb supposed to do his homework on?
Caleb was supposed to watch one of the greatest movies of the last year, at least, Top Gun Maverick.
Caleb failed to do this, thus his dumpster status. And but you and I have watched this movie, and I'm sure a lot of our audience has watched this movie. But we're finally getting to our review of said movie after waiting very patiently for Caleb to do his homework, and he did
Yeah,
not.
we were supposed to do this a month ago, at least.
Yeah,
Actually, June. We talked about doing this in June,
yeah.
and Caleb was like, "Yeah, let me go see it." What month is it now, Keith?
It is not June. It is in fact August.
But this movie is still in theaters.
It is. I checked just before. It's at 3 of my local theaters still, which is that's a hell of a run for a movie, and honestly, it frickin' deserves it because
Yeah.
dear God, was this a well done movie.
Yes. So before we get into this, spoiler warning, we're probably going to talk about some stuff that in this movie that if you haven't seen it would be spoiling of the movie for you to see.
Mhm.
Um if you happen to be someone who might have to edit this video and you haven't seen the movie, well, whoopsie.
You had your chance. You had your chance, kid. You blew it.
You blew it. And also we should be clear about something. We try and talk about relevant news to the gun world. We talk about relevant releases, all that stuff. Sometimes none of that's really going on.
Yeah, and
And our
this is just one of those weeks, and this was one of those. This is one of those creative projects that the studio did, and they did an excellent job on, and it's going to be worth. It's going to be worth repeating how good this movie is for a very long time, because this is
right,
going to stand out as an excellent, excellent piece, and not just like military cinematography in the fact that it's a military themed movie, but it's just a damn good movie.
so it is not a movie that, like, it's not one of those rare sequels that stands on its own that's actually better than the movie that came before it. A really great example of that to me is The Dark Knight.
Mm.
You don't need to see Batman Begins. You can just start with The Dark Knight and get a fantastic movie out of it and go, wow, what a great experience. It's actually better than the original. This film, I don't know if that's possible.
No, and I don't think it was built on that concept. It was very much from the get-go, it's built with you knowing the events of Top Gun. So if you haven't
Yeah.
seen Top Gun, and I met a few people recently who had not seen Top Gun, and I'm like, well, it's been out a minute. What are you waiting for?
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
had one
I met
person.
a few people who had not seen Top Gun who then wanted to see Top Gun Maverick because they saw all the hype and all the excellent commentary surrounding Top Gun Maverick, and they're like, "Well, I haven't seen the Top Gun." You can watch this movie and have an enjoyable experience without seeing Top Gun, but you are going to be playing catch up and need to hit either Wikipedia or IMDb or something, somewhere where there's a synopsis to fill in some information gaps. It can't stand on its own. But if you have seen Top Gun, Top Gun Maverick picks up in an excellent spot and is going to give you all the feels from the original movie and then
Yes,
some.
it's, one, the original Top Gun is well over 30 years old at this point. I don't know what Tom Cruise's skincare routine is, but it
Good
is
one.
worth every penny.
It's a good one.
He's clearly older, but he is not as old looking as his people he was in the movie with.
Oh yeah, Val Kilmer makes his entrance again as Iceman, And clearly Tom Cruise has gotten, and they respect Val Kilmer very much in
Yes.
the movie. They do excellently with the fact that Val Kilmer has a disability, and they
Yeah.
work around it fantastically. They do great credit to him as an actor, and then his character. They do credit to both. Uh, but it's very clear that Tom has like nat 20'd on all his I'm getting older checks. What's gonna go first? And it's clearly like, well, you're just gonna look distinguished, sir.
Right.
That's all we got for you.
He he definitely looks like a pilot.
He
Like
does.
every
He
pilot I've ever seen who keeps their health up, they all look like this guy. And the movie starts with this concept of a hypersonic. I don't know if it's a fighter, but it is a plane.
it's a hypersonic test plane. Let's hit the credits scene first. The opening credits roll.
Oh
And
yeah,
if you have seen the original Top Gun and just how much that soundtrack gets you hyped for the movie, you get every single one of those feels back immediately during the opening credits in Maverick. And you're just like, oh, it's here again.
I did not. I
Yes.
did not expect to be so hyped to see F-35s.
I wasn't either. And but you get a good shot of one, on the deck of the carrier, and like, oh, it's the 35. They have that too.
Like there's a lot of just like if you're a plane guy, you're going to come to this movie, you're going to get what you wanted to see.
Mhm.
But yeah, the carrier scene isn't part of the story, but it is. It kind of picks up with where Top Gun, the original one, does its own thing as well, where they start with like the idea of like, hey, we're in stuff, we're going to show you this military stuff and all this cool stuff that goes around it. But they actually take it some steps further throughout Top Gun Maverick. There's more stuff going on where they show some of the other jobs that are kind of connected
Yes.
to fighter pilots, and so one of the big things is anytime you see an actor in a cockpit and they're flying and they're doing stuff, that's real.
Mhm.
So they talk to the Navy and they put them in the back seat of F-18s, put a
Yeah,
bunch of
they
cameras in
put
there.
they put him in F-18 F models because the E model's the single seater and the F model's the two seater.
Yeah,
These guys were actually flying in the F model F-18s.
on planes that needed mid-air refueling time,
Yep.
so that they're up there for a while. They can burn a lot of fuel, and they just had the pilots put them through stuff. So, one big props to these people who are like sitting there having to run their own cameras, remember their lines, emote, and do the job. I know acting is sometimes viewed as like it's not that hard. They just read the paper,
It's just adult pretending. It's like
bro.
to do it well.
You pretend to be anything other than shitting your pants in the back of an F-18 doing some of the stuff that they're doing. Please,
Yeah.
please do that.
Oh yeah. Dude,
And
I've seen some some people I know who are some hard people, some absolute badass motherfuckers. I've seen them. They go on rides like that. They'll go up in a plane, a high G plane, and then at 4Gs, they're just like,
yeah,
and they're gone.
there's a great video of one of the guys singing Highway to the Danger Zone doing 6 Gs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, what? That's 6 times normal Earth gravity. This dude's like, how, where? I'm like, no, I
Bro.
could not.
Uh,
So they're up
however,
there, they're doing that. They do a lot more stuff. I should say there are a couple of scenes where they're in cockpits where they're not actually flying. I did misspeak there. That does occur. But they do a lot of stuff where they are showing. One of my big critiques with Top Gun is if you watch it with a critical eye towards like, okay, what are the dogfights look like? You can't really tell in Top Gun 1. The most you really get is like some gun cam footage,
mm-hmm.
um, and like shots of planes doing different stuff, but there's no real spatial awareness. That is not the case in Maverick.
No, they do an excellent job of showing you where these planes are, what's their relation. You get a lot of shout outs on distance, on closing speeds, on like you are kept very aware of what's going on in the air with these planes. And I think that's very cool. That's a detail that they paid attention to, and it was very cool. So to jump back to the plot real quick, we have the opening plot arc, which is Tom Cruise is now a test pilot and he's testing a scramjet hypersonic fighter for the Navy, and their goal is to make this thing go Mach 10. And one of the opening story arcs is that, their original goal was, okay, right now in our development cycle, because these things are developed over time, they're tested, they're tweaked, they're analyzed, they're tested again, tweaked and analyzed over and over and over again through slow, incremental, as safe as you can processes. Like the original goal, as we're opening with him, because we go from the carrier straight to this, test field.
Right.
And today is the Mach 9 test. But then Admiral Grumpy Pants shows up and is like, no, I'm shutting you down, Maverick.
This is taking money from my drone program.
I like me some drones.
If
It's like
you
everyone
watch
likes drones, but the
if
military,
you watch movies like military movies, there's always like the background problem.
yeah.
And in the mid 2010 area, it was always the PMCs, and now it's like the drones.
The drones are taking her jobs.
Pretty soon it'll be the drone PMCs. Which also real. But not that problematic. I love the idea that there's just like some general out there who's like, I need money for drones, and they're like, well, of course you can have money for drones, but
those are really useful.
And he's like, but I want more money for drones.
They're like, we gave you a really big check, sir. In fact, we're in fact not going to repair any of the barracks again, so that you can have drones.
So now he's driving to this test field to shut it down. Bro, he doesn't have to be there.
No, he can just call.
They're not. What are they going to do? Open the safe and like drum all the plane money?
The plane money.
My man is literally throwing a for sale sign on top of the Dark Star and be like, "Hey, come and get this thing." Like,
and it's Ed Harris too, and he plays it to the T. It's well done. I was glad to see him in a role like that in this movie. And so he shows up, and we get a classic, bit of humor for this style of movie where Tom Cruise takes off directly over top of him, blows his hat down, the roof on the little guard shack pops up and comes down real quick. It's a funny moment, and it's entertaining. And then he goes and joins all the support staff who are running all the test machines on the Dark Star as Tom's going away, and of course Ed's like, bring him back, he's got to land, and Cruise is like, well, I didn't hear him, so I'm gonna make funny radio noises.
It's extra funny to me because I do that to me and Keith's boss on call. I'm always like, I'll hear you, and I swear to you, it works every time. So when I saw it in the theater, I was just like, I know that mood.
That's a good move. High quality, would recommend. And so the rest of the scene, we get Tom pushing, hitting Mach 9, hitting Mach 10, saving everyone's jobs and being the hero. And then he's
somehow
like, we can go a little further. And then his plane go kaboom.
Right. He disintegrates what I'm guessing is $1 billion plane.
Oh yeah. He just lit 9 he just lit 10 figures on
fire. All of that
drone on fire.
All the drone money everywhere just gone. And I love the idea that this test pilot crashes this plane and then walks into a diner.
That scene was like every scene on it's very clear just how much craftsmanship was put into every space of this movie, and that scene sealed it for me so hard because he's well toasted. He just went through the fastest plane crash ever, and he survived, and he wanders into this little tiny town diner all like charred and in a in a high altitude flight suit, which looks a lot like a space suit. He's just like grabs this thing of water. Is like, I'm very thirsty now.
Yeah, I love the idea that not every CSAR aspect in the world would have been just like routed directly
Yeah,
to
just
this
like
problem.
immediately going there. They knew exactly where he was. And he then
Let's not
asks
even
the
talk
diner
about
at
like,
large, where am I? And an adorable little kid goes, Earth.
I don't care how many times we do that joke. It's still funny to me. I
It
still
is.
laugh at that joke.
It was so well done. And the theater, every time I saw the movie 3 times in theaters, which tells you a lot because that's not cheap to do anymore.
No.
I saw it
Um,
3 times in theaters. I laughed every time. The whole theater busted up every time. It is such a well delivered joke. Like, of course, the little small town kid is like, "This is definitely an alien."
mhm. So we then fast forward to the real problem. One, I love the fact that we continue to shit on Maverick's military career.
Mhm.
That at no point did he ever like try and figure out how to be an adult. He's just
Yeah,
like, I'm a Toys R Us kid, and no one has ever been like Maverick. Sure, you shot down 4 planes, but you are an asshole. They would
yep,
have they
kind.
would have jettisoned him out of the military so long ago,
Yeah,
and they do kind
they
of cover for that. They're like,
they
oh,
cover for that apparently. Like, because they say he got in trouble, and then he got in trouble again, and then he got in trouble. They keep alluding to it in the movie that he keeps getting in a spot of trouble, but then Val Kilmer, whose career outpaced his, was always like, "Nope, that's my wingman. We're keeping him."
which is an odd inverse of their actual careers.
Right?
um, and the real problem now is that there is a mission, and I'm going to call it what it is. It's the Death Star.
Yeah, it's the Death Star run.
Like, we needed to find a reason for these pilots to fly a mission with F-18s because that's what they could get a hold of. And they're at one point they're like, "Oh, there are GPS blockers, so the F-35 and F-22 are out." And I'm like,
That's
"What?
not how that works.
What?" And I think that was the moment the movie kind of put its arm around me like a favorite uncle and pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, kid, we're a fucking movie. So we're going to do the thing that makes it happen for the movie. And you need to stop asking so many damn questions." I was like, "You right, movie. You are a movie. And I'm not going to ask any more questions about why the F-35 and F-22 don't have GPS signal in this area and therefore can't operate.
Yeah,
But the
the
F-35,
the nickel deposits or whatever in the mountains of not Russia.
yeah, clearly not Russia. They have to fly through a trench under the SAM sites, which I also love the idea of, like, we were setting up our defenses for our area, and they're like, "Okay, well, we put SAMs on the top of the mountain so they can't fly anywhere." And nobody's like, "Should we put a SAM in like the valley?"
Should we like at least the start of the valley so like no one can fly into it? Should we protect that? And everyone's like, nah, nobody would try
Nah,
that.
fam, nah, no. You'd have to be crazy. You'd have to be the best pilot in the world. Um,
Which is hilarious because not only is it shown that like all these F-18 pilots can do it, but during later fight scenes between them and the enemy fighters, they're doing it too. They're all just chilling in there doing their thing. Like, this was clearly a lot easier than y'all let on. Like, it's not nothing, but someone should have thought about this. Like, at least had one guy go up and be like, "Hey, can you fly that valley?
and this is
If you
also
can, we should put missiles there."
this is also the problem of post-Ukraine conflict Russian enemies. When you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, the Russian ADA net of S-300s and S-400s will prevent any fighter craft." Oh, apparently not. Apparently
Apparently
they're
not.
not very good.
They do have friendly fire on though, and occasionally one just goes return to
I
sender.
returned to home. Like they're hyping up all this like Russian tech under this I don't know why I'm holding a screwdriver. Don't worry about that.
Uh,
Under this unnamed like enemy that they wanted to call Russia but couldn't. And like, oh, they have these 5th-generation Russian fighters. I'm like, that thing is not flying.
No, no, no. Uh, the, it, I think the very next week after this movie dropped in theaters, like some photos got leaked of it, and there are actually wooden screws
Yes,
holding a lot of the
yes.
panels together on the
I'm
57
like, this
right
is
now.
not a
And you're
scary.
like, now I'm no aircraftologist, but
Like, I understand that in like a certain level, propaganda exists on everything, but when we're nicer to you in our propaganda than you are in reality, you've got some problems.
uh-huh.
So he has to train these young pilots, which shockingly enough includes the son of Goose,
Yep.
which they did not call Duck, and I'm
Right.
forever saddened about it.
Missed opportunity. They
But
called
he
him
is,
Rooster instead.
yeah, they call him Rooster. And one, they do get into like every pilot's nickname is not a fun nickname.
No.
Every guy and girl in this crew, shocker, there's a
Yeah,
female pilot.
there's some
They've been
female
there for
pilots.
years, guys. Somebody was like, female pilots in the new Top Gun, and I'm like, female pilots in the U.S. military
Right?
for
Female pilots in literal
longer than
real
I've been
life.
alive. Like, what the fuck are you
They
talking
are
about?
real. They do exist.
And they're going over this stuff, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna, like, we called this guy this thing because he's a dickhead, so we called him this. And I thought, like, okay, well, that's actually kind of like funny and real.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of callbacks. I'm not going to go through every detail of the training scheme because just like the friendly father's arm around me, the movie was like, we're gonna we're gonna make you think that Tom Cruise isn't going on this mission. He will be. Just relax and let us
But
get
bear
there.
with
Like,
us. We're gonna have some fun in the meantime.
and Miles, I don't know what his last name is.
Miles Teller, I think.
Miles Teller. Fantastic. This
Yeah,
guy,
did well. Although I
he
have to give
plays
it
Roos.
my favorite character in that whole sequence, it's Bob.
Bob is amazing.
I
Bo-
love Bob. He's not a
Bob
pilot. He's the electronics warfare officer. He's the second seater in the two-seater F-18, and he gets paired up with the main chick pilot. There are like two or three of them. He gets paired up with her, and like he's like this turbo nerd, but he's really good at the electronic warfare job, and he very clearly understands his job well as the second seat in that. He does a great job as the second seat in the F-18, and he's just hilarious when he gets introduced. He's, oh, what's your call sign, Bob? Uh, uh, no, your call sign, man. What do we call you? And he goes, Bob.
Bob. What's it stand
which
for? It stands for
which
Bob.
funny enough, there are a lot of call signs that get handed out just like that too. Like, you're Bob now.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. There's a love interest in this movie. I could not care less about it.
No, that like
It exists
they
solely,
did it in a classy manner. Like it's not
and it
it's
is a
not
callback to a line from this. But guys, at the end of the day, I'm happy this existed for whoever it existed for, but it was not for me.
no.
Um,
They do it classy, and it's well done. It's well integrated in the story.
right.
It doesn't
It's
take away from it, but it also didn't need to be there because we know who Maverick's character is this whole
yeah.
arc. We know who Maverick is from the first movie. And one of the things I like about this movie is they didn't treat Maverick like the aging moron. They treated him like the Yoda. He was the grand, like he is the best at this, and it was acknowledged that he's the best at this. Sure, he's the old guy, he's the captain, he's the 06, who's been doing this. He's the 06 who should be an 08 two-star admiral.
Right.
That's how old he is. But he is the acknowledged expert, and they play that off pretty well. They don't treat him like, oh well, the hotshot young pilots, are surpassing him, and he's having to come to terms with the fact that the new generation is
No, he's still better
he
than them.
spanks the fuck out of all these guys. He absolutely he humbles all of them, and it is fun to watch.
So there's a moment, like, to understand like where Maverick is compared to everybody. Maverick has killed 4 enemy combatants. The closest guy to him is 1, and they're like, that guy that barely counted. That
Yeah,
was that was a
it was
MiG over
a
Syria that had no
like
idea you were there.
farting Cold War relic that was just, I got up here, guys, and we're gone.
Brrr. He was half
Like
crashing
this
anyway.
dude basically just like looked at it angry, and he got the one air-to-air kill that existed in this universe, where Maverick is, yeah, again, sitting on 3 or 4. Like he is just shy of ace going into this. And then he got a lot of air-to-ground combat mission during GWAT.
Right.
So they
So
fill that in. That, obviously Top Gun 1, he's a dedicated air-to-air pilot. He's doing F-14. He does fleet protection. But the F-18 is an FA aircraft, so it has a ground attack role, and apparently he did a lot of ground attack stuff. They hype up his background. He's like, this is the only guy with air-to-air mission kill experience that's relevant, and air-to-ground mission kill experience that's relevant, that can teach you guys to pull off the Death Star run. And
right.
so they keep training, and they eventually finish up for the Death Star run, and Tom pulls it all together, proving you can do it by doing it live himself through the training arc, which he had not flown before. He told them how to fly it, but he always flew in opposition because he was the instructor. Then he flies it himself in like record time. And then Admiral Grumpy Pants #2 is like, well, guess you got to go on the mission, Tom. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, yay!
Yeah.
Tom gets to
Thank
fly.
God the movie's gonna happen, guys. And they go out there, they go to do the mission, and this is where we're going to get into like serious spoiler tech stuff. So here's what I'm going to do. I know the guy who's having to edit this probably skipped this part, but I'll try and save him. We're going to talk about the last mission. Whoever's editing this, when we start doing this, you can turn your volume back on, and that means we've stopped talking about it. So they do the mission. They go out to do this thing. They fly through it. There's a couple of problems, and the fucking Luke Skywalker rooster has to take the final shot with no targeting computer system, but he makes it. And then him and fucking so Tom Cruise sees a Sam flying at Rooster, Goose's son. He's like, no, and like dives onto the missile. I don't know if that's possible, but the movie
I
happened.
I don't either, but he takes the hit. It's something we've seen in other movies where one plane will, try and take the hit for the other. It's done very closely. It's shot well. The scene is put together well, and he takes the hit, and we lose Maverick.
Okay, now at this point, I had about 4 seconds where I'm like, did they just fucking kill Tom Cruise in this movie? The
I did
absolute
too. I was
balls
like,
on them.
bold,
Um,
bold.
but it turns out no. Tom Cruise's character, Pete Maverick, is immune to plane crashes because he has been through more of them, not even unhurt, unscathed. Crashing a plane is a Tuesday to Maverick,
Yep.
apparently.
He
Like
crashed $1 billion one like 3 months ago.
this dude should still be in medical. People should
Right?
still be checking to see if like what kind of fractures take place on a human body when it's ejected from a plane doing Mach 10.
Yep.
And when he gets shot down, he's below the highest point of land.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, he's him and his quad of fighter jets there with Rooster and Bob, and I'm forgetting her call sign off, and then the other pair. So
yeah,
there's 6
complete
guys in the air,
throwaways.
4 planes. They're flying around. Missiles are going everywhere because, instead of putting a single SAM site in the valley, just in case, they put like 60 of these things on the mountain, and they're just like, pew, 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 pew,
I
pew.
will say that in the early
Where
part of this mission,
realistically, having a single SAM site covering like one area, that's a lot of investment. Like that's a lot of money you've put right there to protect the thing.
I absolutely love the part earlier when they're flying in to do the mission, and you see like 100 Patriot missiles
Yes.
being launched in to kill all the radar sites. Um, and I'm like, whoa, that's actually pretty fucking cool.
That's dope.
Um,
That was a cool scene. They watch them go overhead, go streaking in to do their initial strike, wake up the neighbors and
yeah,
set them up to do their Death Star run.
turn off all the TVs in the country real fast.
Yep.
Yeah, so Maverick is immune to being shot down. It actually just is what it takes to wake him up. And then a Hind begins hunting him, which holy
because
shit.
again, not Russia. So the not Russian Mi-24 or 35 is like, it's time to go kill this pilot. He's completely defenseless, and I could take him with like 3 dudes hopping out of the back of the Hind and be like,
right,
what the fuck were you doing? Time to get some intel. But no, let's attack him with the chain gun.
At best, he has like an M9 that he's never shot.
Right?
I am a child of the 80s, and I tell you that the Mi-28 and 35 live in my nightmares. And the scariest they've ever been before was in Red Dawn. In the Red Dawn ambush where they start blowing the kids up, and my favorite character, Robert, dies like an absolute Chad. Those were very scary. They're not actually Hinds. They're helicopters.
They're mocked up to be.
They're mocked up to be Hinds, but it's the concept. That is replaced by this scene in Maverick. This scene in Maverick, that thing is fucking scary.
Yeah.
And
like, it is hunting you, and those dudes are like, hey, you just wrecked our shit. I'm gonna murder the fuck out of you with this really big gun.
And then, oh no, the Hind has been slain by Rooster. And I'm like, holy shit, they came back to save Tom Cruise. That's awesome. Now, how are they going to get, and then Rooster gets shot down.
Yeah, like, Rooster gets shot. It's like, hey, they got him.
My immediate thought is like, did they just kill Goose again? I may not be emotionally ready for Goose number 2 to die. Not the case. He lives.
Nope. He parachutes down, and we get a classic Tom Cruise full-on sprinty scene.
Yeah,
classic sprinty scene where Tom is just hauling.
Now, after this, in my head, I started thinking like, okay, they're going to roll out some CSAR teams and CH-53s, and
at this point, I'm going like, are we going to get a little behind enemy lines?
Right. I was expecting like some MH-60s with a bunch of Marines in them running out to do this mission to get these guys, maybe even PJs. Like I was thinking like, how cool would that be if they had like some high altitude jumping in PJs to get them out, or like that system where they inflate the balloon and the C-130 comes and picks you up, like, which I don't think we've used since Vietnam, but it's
cool. No, it did not actually work that well. Turns out if you just scoop somebody up at 0 to 140 on a drag
probably
line,
painful.
That's bad for the body. I mean, Tom Cruise is immune to plane crashes. I don't know if plane pickups are also true.
So as this occurs, I'm trying to think about what they're going to do. They instead, like the old fatherly movie comes in and like, hey, we're going to be really batshit crazy for the next 20 minutes. And I'm like, we have 20 minutes of movie left? And they're like, yeah, we have 20 minutes. And we're going to be absolutely batshit crazy with it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's the script. The script came in and was like, hey, buddy, how are you doing? And we're like, fine. This has been great so far, but they're stuck. How are they going to?
How are they going to get out? Are we setting up?
How are they going to get out? And he's like, oh, don't you worry. We're going to take this. That's my suspension of disbelief. Yeah, we're going to put that way up here, and you just don't worry about that for the next 15, 20 minutes. Just have a good time.
What? Well, then what are we going to do with it? And Tom Cruise finds an F-14. Now, this is Chekhov's F-14. They talked about this thing way earlier in the movie when they were talking about this, like,
when they were setting up the mission, they do this intel overfly where they're talking about the airfield and the enemy assets, and there's this quote unquote throwaway line of they even have a couple of old F-14s there, which lends credence to the credence to the fact that maybe not Russia, maybe Iran and Russia, because Iran had 14s.
Right.
Or,
Iran did way better with their 14s than we did.
yeah, they shot it.
Guys, if you want to see like some cool historical stuff, there are legit aces from Iran in F-14s, and they are legit fighter aces.
Because
we tend to kill the planes on the ground.
The Iraqi fighter pilots were not pushovers. They were not working with great equipment, but they weren't pushovers in that fight. No.
So they literally walk onto the base that they've already bombed with all those Patriot missiles.
Yeah. And they're just like, look like you belong, look like you belong, look like you belong. Look at it.
Honestly, at first I was like, this is stupid. And then I thought, wait, who's going to ask two dudes in flight suits what they're doing?
Especially with the airfield in tatters, and you clearly scrambling to do exactly what these two guys are going to do.
Right.
So the plausibility went like, no, actually.
No. But at the same time, possibly yes.
Yeah. As you and I well know, displaying a badge doesn't have to be the correct badge. Displaying a badge, or having a reflective vest on, or carrying something that means they look enough like they're supposed to be where they're at. Not my problem. I'm not going to ask them anything about it. So 2 fighter pilots going toward a jet fighter, a 2-seater jet fighter, not the craziest thing that's happening right now.
They get there, they start this thing up, and they had bombed the airfield, so they use the taxiway.
Yep, they use the taxiway, and Tom basically jump starts it like he's going off the catapult. He sets the wings up, everything like he was going off the catapult.
Variable wing stuff
of an aircraft carrier. And Goose Jr., Rooster here is like, Mav, why are the wings out, Mav? He's clearly giving all these same like we're not supposed to do this vibes. This isn't how it's supposed to work vibes.
This scene wasn't for me. Funny. I know this wasn't for me. This was a scene that was very clearly for boomers in the audience to be like, damn millennials don't know about variable wing technology. I felt like, poor Rooster sitting in the back of this plane, like, what do I do back there? And he's like, well, your dad did all that. I don't know. Figure it out.
That was your dad's job. I don't know. I just do the stuff in this seat. And there's a later scene, because obviously they make it up. They take off. They take off their front landing gear, and you're like, that'll be a problem later, but we'll get to that. And so they take off. They're airborne again, and yay, Maverick's back in an F-14, and Goose's son is flying Rio, and we have a classic like the technology in the old days sure was. They're like, hey, get on the radio. We have to contact the carrier group so they know A, not to shoot us, and B, that we're coming. So, figure it out. And he's like, man, there are like 10 billion switches back there and here, and they're all analog. Like, I'm not used to this. And Tom's basically like, that was your dad's job. I guess start flipping things, and we'll oh, look, the Su-57s are here.
Yeah, so 2 Su-57s come up, which there were like a total of 4, which I think is 3 more than actually exist in the real world.
Right?
And like the Su-57s slide in. And it's very big, like, oh, the big bad guy is here now, guys. Like, we are in the shit. In real life now, I'm just like, oh no, those things are already out of fuel.
They do not work as advertised.
I don't know why these guys are flying around an airfield they know they can't land at, but whatever.
Yeah, like they should be bugging the fuck out to the next place they can
looking for a new home.
Super expensive planes that they only have this many of. And
I would be on the phone with like a neighboring country and be like, hey, put on your Minister of Defense and a guy with a checkbook.
Yep.
I'm about to
we're about to do a friendly exchange here.
This isn't even a crazy idea, guys. This has happened.
Oh,
this has happened a number of times.
Especially at the end of the Cold War, there were pilots who were just like, no, I feel like joining the West. I will
Yeah,
bring my fighter jet with me.
in the Cold War, certain countries are like, you can't be a pilot if we don't have your family to hold.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah, like, oh, you want to be a fighter pilot for behind the Iron Curtain? Your entire family is now our hostage so that you don't go rogue with our weapon system.
so they get up there and they like fake it for a little bit, and then like, oh no, it happens. I want to say that they do the Cobra maneuver where you like stand the plane up and vector throw. They do
Yeah.
that like 9 times in this film.
And let's be clear, the F-18 can't do that. I understand why they did for the movie. The F-18 can't do that. When you haul back on the stick, you can't Cobra maneuver an F-18E or F. It just go up.
So
Like
I've heard that you can.
I was told very unequivocally by my friend Spikerman, you can't.
So, yeah, so like I have no idea if anything.
And
Okay,
he flies them,
here's
so I
yeah,
assume
that's
he's
fair.
correct.
I've heard that you can do this in other planes, that it's not that difficult of a thing, and there's other stuff back and forth. Like, let's be fair,
I know there are
neither
other
one of us are
airplanes that
pilots.
can
We can't
do
speak
it.
to this accurately.
Just the 18 is not one of the frames that can do it.
Here's what I'll
I think the 22 can, the 35 might be able to, but I've heard the 18 can't do it. But they do it to kind of showcase that, man, Tom Cruise is a badass. He can do a Cobra maneuver in an airframe that it's not supposed to.
here's what I'm going to say though. In I'm not a pilot. I can't speak to what can or can't do this, but I do know a little bit about radar technology. And in modern aircraft, taking your stealth fighter, which in the flat plane has very little surface area and hard for the missile to see it, and suddenly making it do this is considered a bad idea.
Yeah, let's
So
give the missile something more to look at.
so if your statement for like how cool Russian airplanes are is that they can do the scary Cobra maneuver, my friend the AI-9 would like to have a word with you, and that word is E.
Because I don't care what maneuver you pull. That missile is better at flying than you are. That
Right,
is a svelte little missile.
we have
That
missiles that we don't need to see you for them to
no,
work.
we have versions now that can fire 360 degrees around the plane. It just needs to know, oh, over there? Okay, goodbye.
I'm on my way. Good luck, buddy.
Gotcha, fam. Goodbye.
So, but that doesn't happen, and we get the dogfight, and we get a gun kill, and it's a cool gun kill, and we get some flares and some other cool stuff, and Maverick is truly the best fighter. Also, props to whoever trained the enemy team, because they do not care what casualty rates they have taken.
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
They
90%
lose two
casualty
of
rate.
their
I'm
fifth
still
gen
in it.
fighters to this plane, and they're like, put in two more.
Keep going.
Keep going. Not only that, but keep going closer to the enemy's air response. You know what we should absolutely do to this fighter that's totally just smoked two of ours? We should put our other two hyper expensive fighters to
Send them.
engage it closer to the enemy aircraft carrier that can throw quick response fighters into the air, including F-35s.
Right,
They
because
they the
they're here
F-35
now.
was out for the Death Star run. For the contextually, the F-35 couldn't do the Death Star run. There is nothing saying the 35 cannot be tossed into the air for fleet defense.
So whoever trades nameless countries bad guy air force, good for you, I guess. Like your
Yeah.
ability to order Jim Bob the pilot to go forth and conquer is beyond anything. Because like I'll be real, if one of my homeboys dies in the air, I'm a little iffy. If 9 of them die in the air, I am 180 degrees the other way on full afterburners. Like, dear please God, get me to a new home. I also, if I'm remembering correctly, the radar tech is like, an F-14 is up in the air, and they're immediately like, "That's Maverick," and I'm like,
Well,
"What?"
to set up that scene, it was well done. It was well played. It was plausible, kind of the thing they did, in the sense that I don't know how like a downed pilot pack works. So I don't know if flipping that thing on and having it start to talk to GPS or aircraft or in the air that's saying, hey, my pilot's still there. He flipped on his come find me gear. I don't know if that would work flying in another plane, but that's what they make it do. So
Yes.
so Rooster flips
I've
on
re-
his come find me pack, and when they pick it up, because he flips it on once they get in the air, and in the 14, and so the radar tech is like, hey, we found Rooster, his pack just came on, and they're like, yay, Rooster's alive, that's good, let's get seesaw rolling, let's get Marines. And they're like, this doesn't make any sense though. And they're like, what doesn't make sense about it? We, the audience, of course, know they just stole the M14. And the radar tech's like, he's going supersonic. And then the radar aircraft, the J2, or one of the
Whatever.
big radar dish aircraft that's
P3
flying around.
Orion, maybe. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
a plane and it's
yeah.
cool and I'm having fun.
Yep, it's flying around looking at all the things, and they go, guys, there's a single F-14 just hauling ass for you guys. And then they're like, Maverick. they basically do a who else but Quagmire scene. They're like, who else
but
Maverick?
Oh, and this is again so batshit crazy.
Oh,
and
it's crazy, but at this point, the
Right.
movie has handed us off. They're like, we gave you the semi-realistic Death Star run mission that they ran.
Right. And they're
Gave you
like,
all the numbers and how like this was dangerous and flying through and everything like that. We slowly put more and more. They build up this whole suspension of disbelief thing throughout the movie, from like, test aircraft, could not happen. Fighter training, definitely like realistic numbers, everything like that, realistic airspeeds and maneuvers and whatnot. And then we slowly build up more and more and more back to suspension of disbelief. And they get us to that magical point when Rooster and Maverick are down behind enemy lines. It's like, all right, time for the finale. Enjoy.
now we're gonna have a movie.
now we're gonna have a movie. And so we just go nuts with it. And fucking Maverick smokes 2 Su-57s in a dogfight with an F-14. And then the last one comes out and is fighting them. And of course, the kind of dickhole pilot saves them at the end, comes in, smokes them with an AMRAAM, and is like, hey, and then he says the line from earlier in the movie that was kind of made him a dick. He says it again, and you're like, all right, respect for you, sir. They kind of do another Iceman scene with him, because he's great value Iceman for the movie.
He really is, and he does a fantastic job.
But he does.
He is great value
owns the role.
Iceman.
He owns the role real well. And so he does the great value Iceman thing. He saves them at the end when you're basically like, well, they didn't kill him the first time, but are they going to kill him and Goose at the end? Like, no, they wouldn't let us know how to do it. But how are they going to pull it off? And he's like, haha, air interception. It's like, I feel like the fighter pilot of the Su-57 should have considered, the carrier battle group clearly can launch F-18s to my airbase and my secret nuclear missile thingy site. I am in range right now. I should consider this before hunting down this 14 that's already smoked 2 of my other planes.
No, all he knows is wear face concealing helmet.
Yeah, wear scary face concealing helmet
and chase bad guys. Like, that's all my man know how to do.
And chase 14.
All right. So we've talked about the movie in great depth for a really long show. Also, you can come back into the room, editor.
You're good, Caleb. You're good.
Oh,
did I just give away who the editor
oh,
is? Oh
no. Oh no. If you haven't seen this movie, you should go see it in the movie theater, which is what they want you to see. It is
definitely a theater-worthy movie. There are a lot of shows and a lot of movies nowadays that hit the theater and then small screen very quickly, just because that's the age of tech we live in. Thanks to digital tech, we can simultaneously put them out on both. That's fine. We can do that. This is definitely a movie to see in theaters. It's built for that experience, and it's well worth it.
Absolutely.
If it comes back around, which has been a common thing, I think I can't confirm, I'd have to look it up, but I think they're gonna do an extended cut theater run
Oh
that's
yeah,
gonna
sure.
give some, more footage. I'm not expecting a Lord of the Rings extended cut here, but we might have
Solidly
another fun
4 hours.
adventure here with the director's cut or the extended cut on this one. So
But guys, let us know what you thought of this. Do you want us to talk about more fun movie stuff, or did you hate it? It won't change how we operate, but it is fun to let us know how you feel.
mhm.
But for Gunday Brunch, I'm Jack.
And I'm Keith, and we're out of here.